Frankenbass neck extravaganza, Portman totally out of control. The Bass of Theseus.
We could do a commercial while this is going, couldn't we? Make a little extra money.
Expect the unexpected. I've been messing with stuff long enough that I should know it by now, and I do. Yet, I'm still always surprised by things that go wrong in ways I never would have imagined until they happen. I had several objectives with this latest round of messing with stuff. My top priority was to swap a Fender replacement neck onto the Squier 40th anniversary jazz bass. Don't ask why, I just needed to do it. This was what I decided to do instead of following my impulse to buy one of the new Indonesian-made Fender standard jazz basses. Don't worry, I have thoughts, but I'm holding off on that video for now. I like my Squier 40th anniversary jazz bass, and with the upgrades I've already made, it's most likely better than a Fender standard, but it still says Squier on the headstock, and also the neck has a couple of bad frets. So I did the math. $600 for another new bass. $300 for a new neck. Something less than that to have a luthier fix the bad frets. I assume minor fretwork costs less than $300, but it also wouldn't give me a chance to tinker. You know which option I chose. I still have no idea why someone at Fender wrote nothing with a Sharpie on the box this neck shipped in. I'm just glad there was actually something in the box. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Objectives. Objective 1. Swap this Fender neck onto the Squier jazz body. Objective 2. Try out my new multimeter to verify that the shielding paint in these various basses, plus the copper foil I had applied in others, was actually conductive. Objective 3. I knew installing the neck would involve filing the nut, so I wanted to practice using the new file set I ordered from StewMac by trying them out filing the Squier Affinity Precision nut, which is now on the body of my Fender Jaguar strung BEAD. Objective 4. As long as I was messing with stuff, I wanted to address the one shortcoming of my last Frankenbass project. The jazz bridge pickup I installed on the Precision Jaguar Frankenbass, the stock one from the 40th anniversary Squier in fact, sounded great, but has proven to be pretty noisy in rooms with fluorescent lights. So I wanted to take the DiMarzio noiseless pickup I had in the BEAD Jaguar, swap it onto the Precision, and put the stock Jag pickup back in place. That was a lot to try to tackle in one day, but I did it. Not without a few setbacks, including my iPhone running out of storage and cutting off the video in the middle, but, well, let's get into it. The act of pounding with the hammer to drive the tuner bushings into the holes managed to jar loose the nut. I briefly considered just swapping on the Squier nut that was already filed, but in trying to drive it loose, I chipped it. Later, as I was filing the nut that came with the neck, a chunk splintered off of it between the slots for the D and G strings. It wasn't enough to make it unusable, but it was enough to annoy me. I ordered a replacement Graphtec Tusq nut from allparts.com because I discovered the Graphtec nuts come pre-filed and even have nice rounded edges, and they're only $13. I already spent $90 on a set of nut files. Ugh. Well, I still needed to file the nut for the bead base, so I guess it was sort of worth it. But this isn't even about the money anymore. Totally nuts. A few days later, the box from All Parts arrived. It included the pair of Tusq synthetic bone nuts. Yes, I ordered 2. They were cheap enough that I wanted a backup. And a new set of Goes to 11 speed knobs I'm going to install on one of my basses. I just haven't decided which one yet. I put the jazz bass on the bench, loosened the strings, and popped out the old nut. I knew from checking the measurements with my digital caliper that the Tusq nut would probably fit in the slot. Tusq specs showed the width was about 0.003 of a millimeter wider than what I had measured the nut slot to be. I removed the Tusq nut from the packaging. Why is everything packaged like this these days? And tried fitting it into the slot. Nope. Yeah, it's impossible to see, but the thing is just a few atoms too wide to fit down into the slot. Fortunately, these nuts can be sanded down. Now I just need to find some sandpaper. I still have my clarinet reed maintenance supplies from college, including a small square of 220 grit sandpaper. That ought to be perfect. Enough to make a difference, but still leave a smooth surface. Now I just need to find it. Where did I put it? Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, time to sand this sucker down. And it works, but it's a bit too wide. It feels like fret sprout, which honestly doesn't matter as much at the nut as it does on an actual fret, but I still want it to be as flush as possible. I really didn't want to have to sand the sides too, but I guess it's not such a big deal. A few tries later, it was sanded down enough that it doesn't really bug me anymore. It's still not perfectly flush, but it's flush enough that it's hard to pop the nut out again, so I'm just going to leave it for now. I'm quite pleased with how this nut looks, especially with the fact that I didn't have to file the slots. Off camera, I got it tuned up and noodled around for a while. My immediate reaction was that the bass was playing and sounding great. The action felt a tad high, but maybe I'm just spoiled by my other Frankenbass. So a few days later, I took it to a rehearsal. That was when I really felt it. The nut is definitely too high. It's really only a problem on the first fret, but yeah, that's a really steep angle. It needs more work. But I'm left trying to decide, should I file down the slots? I mean, since I have the files now, I might as well use them. Or should I remove the nut and file down the bottom, lowering the whole thing? This is where my inexperience sets in. It would be good to know more before I got too far into this. GraphTech has instructions on their website, but they're all videos. Yes, this is a video. I love YouTube, but I watch videos for entertainment or general knowledge. I hate Googling for step-by-step instructions online and being steered to a video. As much as I love to ramble myself, I don't want to sit through a rambling 5-minute video when I'm trying to get something done, and it could have just been some written instructions that I could read in 30 seconds and refer back to easily later. No, I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X, but my son says I give millennial energy, which is probably an insult to both generations. Now, where was I? My gut tells me not to sand the bottom of the nut, even though it would be easier, since it's not exactly flat but slightly curved. I'll never get that curve right. But I'm also reluctant to file the slots, since that kind of defeats the purpose of buying a nut with pre-filed slots. Anyway, I'm going to leave the story here, for now. But this adventure isn't over. I just want to turn my attention to philosophy. What kind of bass is this? You're probably familiar with the Ship of Theseus. It's a thought experiment based on the ancient Greek myth of Theseus. It essentially goes like this. You build a ship and sail it. Over time, it takes wear and tear. One by one, the original boards get replaced. Eventually, none of the original boards are left. So, is it still the same ship? To put this in a more modern, yet still antiquated feeling context, let's talk about the progressive rock band Yes. The original lineup of Yes, formed in 1968, consisted of John Anderson, Chris Squier, Peter Banks, Tony Kaye, and Bill Bruford. Over its 57 years as a band, Yes has been through more personnel changes than Spinal Tap. The current lineup consists of Steve Howe, Jeff Downs, Billy Sherwood, John Davison, and Jay Shellen. So, is this current band, Howe, Downs, Sherwood, Davison, Shellen, actually Yes? I don't have an answer to that question, but it brings me to this bass. What kind of bass is this? Is it a Fender because it says Fender on the headstock? Is it a Squier because it says Squier on the neck plate? Is it something else entirely? The pickups, volume and tone pots, and knobs are all from DiMarzio. The pickguard is some no-name brand I got on Amazon. The nut is GraphTech. The strings are DR, and there's also some copper shielding foil I added in the cavities, as long as I'm being exhaustive about it. So, again, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is anything?